Hello and welcome to A Stitch in Time. Today is Tuesday, July 17th, 2018, and this is episode 67. My name is Carol and I'm known as Knits and Pearls on Ravelry. The show notes for this and every episode can be found on the blog and also in the episode thread in the Ravelry group. If you'd like to get in touch, you can do so via private message on Ravelry, by leaving a comment in the Ravelry group, or by leaving a comment on YouTube, and I'll do my best to get back to you fairly quickly. Hi everyone, thanks for joining me today on this very, very hot day in the Fraser Valley of British Columbia, Canada. It's expected to get up to 33 degrees Celsius today with humidity. I think it was 36 degrees. That's kind of like mid to high 90s for those of you more familiar with Fahrenheit. It's going to be a warm one. I have a fan aimed at me to keep me cool. I don't think there's any way I could record without it. I'm in the front of the house and I've now have the afternoon sun coming in. So hopefully the fan motor is not too audible and not too distracting. So yeah, I guess it's been about a week and a half since I recorded last. It's been a pretty good week. I've had more time to knit this week, which has been nice. So I have a couple of finished projects to show you and several works in progress. And I've been reading a little bit, nowhere near as much as I would like to / should, but I sometimes when I've been going to bed, I've just been too tired to read. That's usually when I read, is for a little bit before bedtime. So I can hear, it feels like my voice is a little croaky. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure why. I haven't been sick or anything. So hopefully you can hear me okay. So might as well get started. So my first finished project are my Strentia socks by Helen Stewart. This is the third sock in the Handmade Sock Society collection. If you've been watching, you know I knit 3 socks instead of 2. I wasn't happy with the tension on my first sock for my right foot, and so I re-knit it, and definitely am very happy that I did, because they both fit much the same now, and that the second right hand sock that I knit is definitely tighter on my leg and foot, much more comfortable. So here we have it. The yarn is Dream in Color Smooshy in the Punky Fuchsia colorway. So there's the pair. And then I'll bring this in for a closer look. You can see it had little baubles along the top of the ribbing, and then the baubles are also incorporated into this very sweet floral design here, meant to mimic the blossoms on the Strentia flower. I think it's a flower, not a shrub. It's not a plant I'm familiar with at all, but I picked this color because it seemed to match some of the images that I was able to see when I brought up on the computer. So after you finish that, it's a very, very simple sock with a short row heel, and this is the first time I've incorporated German short rows into a sock, and I have to say I like it very much and would do that again for sure. And as my knitting went on, I got a little bit better at picking up the stitches where the heel meets the instep. So I'm quite pleased. There's still maybe little teeny holes, but nothing I can't live with. And these have been washed and blocked, so the yarn I think did bloom slightly. I think that hole's a little bit bigger maybe, but nothing glaringly huge, and nothing I can't live with. So yeah, so there's finished project number 1. And I'm really excited about my second finished project. I decided it was time to tackle the sleeves on my Birkin. That's all that needed doing. It's Birkin by Caitlin Hunter, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with this pattern. It was very popular this past winter. So I altered this a bit, and I will talk about that. Okay, maybe I'll talk about it now, and then I will brave the heat and try this on for you, just so you can see how it looks on. So I ended up knitting the yoke, what is it, twice, I guess. The first time I knit the yoke, I knit the small size, and I used a paler pink. I used this pink. If I bring it forward, you can see there's a pale pink in the center of these lavender flowers. I had originally done these flowers the same color. And while I thought it was pretty, I didn't think there was enough contrast, especially from a distance. And so I ordered another skein of yarn in a darker color and re-knit it. And when I re-knit the yoke, I knit it in a bigger size because I found that the size small was simply going to be too restrictive in this area. And that's a complaint that a lot of people seem to have had. Maybe I should tell you what yarn I used. It's Blacker Swan 4-ply. The main color is Stone. And then this dark green was Tussock. This was, something berry. It's slipping my mind. Tea berry. This green was called Balsam Bog. The lavender was pale lavender, and the pale pink was, I think it was something about rose. Tea berry, and I don't know. It'll be in my project notes for sure, or it is in my project notes already, which I plan to update with photos and more detailed notes, but right now, bear with me, it's just a very basic page. So anyway, yeah, so when I re-knit the yoke, I knit it in the next size up. And another thing I had discovered on my first knitting of the yoke is that it was too long from here to underarm. And I found that the top of the yoke was bunching up. So I just wasn't happy with the fit. What I decided to do, and I experimented with it first, is I ended up, rather than dividing for the sleeves and body after this last set of leaves, I knit the first little bit of the leaf pattern. Come forward again. I knit this first part of the leaf pattern, and then I separated for the body and yoke on this line, the stem. That's a solid row of green, and that's where I separated for the sleeves and the body. So it took off a little bit of length from the yoke so that it was sitting closer to my underarm and not bunching up a bunch. Bunching up a bunch. And then what I did is I figured out how many stitches I needed to complete this pattern around the sleeve, and I made sure I picked up enough stitches under the arm to accommodate that evenly, and I did the same for the body. And another modification is that I did not increase in the pattern. If you knit the medium size, you're supposed to increase again after you knit this portion of the yoke, and I did not. I felt that it would be too big and baggy if I did that, and I really wanted this to be a more fitted sweater. So also with that in mind, what I did is I added waist shaping along the, let's see if I can even see it. Yeah, around here. It was about 1/4 of the way in from each side on the front, and about 1/3 of the way in from each side on the back. That's something I learned from Amy Christopher's, I think it's her series on fitting sweaters. Is it knit, love, wear, or that doesn't sound right. I'll put it in here. I'll find it. Oh, fit to flatter and knit to flatter. So that's what I did, and then I just added a little bit of ribbing on the bottom, and then I also knit the sleeves full length and decreased gradually the whole way down, and did the same 2x2 rib cuff. If you've been watching, you know that I didn't know if I had enough of the main color to knit long sleeves, and I was able to pick up a single skein, the last skein remaining as far as I could tell from the Blacker Yarns website. That came a little while ago, and I'm glad I had it because I definitely did, pardon me, break into it. So, pardon me, sorry, a little croaky. So yeah, there's my Birkin. So I'm going to put the camera on pause, and then I'm going to go and try it on for you. Okay, so here's Birkin in all its glory. Now I have to say, there's still a sense of restriction here in this area, but I can certainly move. If I do that, it's a quick adjustment. Like a lot of people have found, it's like it's as though there isn't enough width around this area. The increases in the yoke are more straight, not straight up and down, but they're not as great an angle as a lot of yoked sweaters are. So your sweater's sitting more like this than this, but it's certainly comfortable enough to wear. I'm happy with the amount of ease. I'm happy with the length, the sleeves, just in general, I'm very happy. I went and checked, so this light pink is actually tea berry, and this color is mountain berry. If I could change something about my color choices, I wish I could have found a brighter pink, or I wish that the yarn had come in a brighter pink without being so burgundy. I think this would have been nice in a bright, maybe pink like this, as opposed to this kind of cranberry color. But I do like the way that that color stands out more than the original pale pink did. And overall, I am really pleased with how this sweater turned out, and I really do look forward to wearing it in the winter time, probably just with a pair of jeans. So yeah, it's been a journey, lots of knitting and re-knitting, but definitely worth it in the end. Okay, I'm back. Definitely not the day to be wearing a wool sweater. Actually, I'm just gonna have a sip before I continue here. Just water today, trying to stay hydrated as much as I can. So once I finished Birkin, I started to think about another sweater I have that needs sleeves, and that is So Faded by Andrea Mowry. I had completed the entire sweater portion, and all that needs to be done is picking up around the neck and doing the neckband and then the sleeves. And so I did pick that project up again. So I'm just going to really quickly tell you what yarn I'm using. It is 3 colors of Malabrigo Machita. And I began with Musas, which is color 889. Then I continued with 247 Wales Road, and then the third color was 383 Sherry. So this is how it looks so far. So the colors are quite vibrant that I see on screen. They may not be quite as vibrant in real life, but beautiful shades of blue and purple. And you can see it does a very nice fade from this mainly kind of a reddish purple into this bluish blue and purple, and then more into a blue with also with purpley stripes. So maybe stand up there too. That probably doesn't really show you. Anyway, I have been working on the sleeve, and I'm doing the same number of rows as the body because I switched to the new color just after dividing for the sleeves, and so I'm counted the rows with each color, and that's what I'm doing as I work my way down. Now here's where I turned from, went from the second to the third color, and as you can see, the yarn is kind of pooling, and I don't think in a very nice way. So what I think I'm going to do is take it back to where this third color joins in, and I'm going to divide what I have left over in the ball. I'm going to divide that into 2 balls, and I'm going to work a row at a time from each ball, and hopefully be able to break up some of that pooling. It's just because the circumference has changed, and while it knit up really nicely, the colors have been distributing themselves just beautifully through this entire sweater. I haven't had an issue with pooling at all with these 3 yarns. I'm not happy with how that looks, and it's really not that much knitting to take back and try and make better. Again, if you've been watching, you know that I originally started this sweater with one different colorway of a different yarn. I subbed in, I had a Madeline Tosh yarn originally, and I wasn't happy with how that was blending in, and it was pooling. And so I actually had ripped it back right to the armholes and incorporated the Wales Road. I had purchased that to go with the other 2, and I thought that it looked better in between this one. This one, I had originally had this as the second color. So again, lots of knitting and re-knitting, unknitting on this sweater, but in the end, I think I'm going to be really happy with it. So it's worth it. I just have my approach is just you put a lot of time and effort and money. If you're not happy with it, take it back, make it better, because you're not going to wear it, or I know I'm not going to wear it if I'm not really happy with it. So again, yeah, lots of time involved and a little bit of heartbreak as you start to frog portions of your work, but I think in the end it's worth it. Since I had finished a pair of socks, I did cast on another this past week. It's the it's upside down. West Yorkshire Spinners Signature 4-ply. This is the Passion Fruit Cocktail colorway. It's 811. I just love this. I don't remember where I first saw it. I know it was on a podcast, and I've seen it on more than one podcast, but I just love the colors in this. So it was time to break it out. Figured it was very summery. And so I decided to do, I think it's at the Vanilla Latte pattern by Emily. Okay, I think it's Emily O'Grady, but then I think she got married and changed her name, but I don't know which was her maiden name and which was her married name. But again, check my show notes, it'll be in there. And that's just when you change from one color to the next. On your first row of the color change, you slip one, knit one, and then it kind of creates this little bit of a pixelated stripe or division in between the stripes. Just makes it a little more interesting. So I had originally thought I had some West Yorkshire Spinners in, I think it's the Pennyroyal colorway, which is kind of similar to this color. And I thought I'd be able to do the heel out of that, but when I actually pulled it out, it's actually a fair bit lighter than this color, and I wasn't happy with how it matched. So I did have this butterscotch that I have used in other projects, and it's color 240. So I am going to do the heel out of this yellow. And what I have done is I've knit, don't know if you can tell, a little bit of yellow here on yellow stripe done. What I did is, and this is how I often do my, insert my short row heels if I'm going to be using, well, sometimes a contrasting color. I was going to say the same color, but sometimes a contrasting color. I basically figured out what the halfway point of the yellow stretch of yarn, and I put a little knot in it to mark it, and then I worked up to that point. Then I rearranged the stitches on my needles so that they were divided half and half. And you can see this is actually, it's a little bit of, you can see a bit the line where the original joins were on my magic loop. I'm hoping that will smooth out a little bit once I wash and block these. So these are ready for the heel now, and even though the sock is going like this on the form, they will actually sit like that once the heel's in. It's I've got the stitches divided here. Oops. So yeah, so there are the heel stitches from here to here. I'll do a short row heel and then pick up again with this yarn, knit down the foot. So what I sort of cast these on as an idea of having more or less a plain vanilla sock to work on, because in some cases some of these colors are quite similar, like between the yellow and the green and the dark green and this pink and this pink. If I don't have great light, or if I'm not paying attention, it's not always easy to spot that place where the one color ends and the other begins. So they're taking a little bit more attention than I had first thought. So I am going to cast on another pair of just absolutely plain vanilla socks that I can have in the car or wherever I don't really need to pay a lot of attention and work on them. But these are just about as good. They're great for, we quite often in the evening we'll go sit on the deck and have a glass of wine, and so I'm calling these my happy hour socks because that's a good time to work on them. Also, because of the passion fruit cocktail name, I just thought that was rather fitting for summertime happy hours. So yeah, loving how these are working out so far. I guess that's the right way up. And one more work in progress, and that is my Ivy Over the Door shawl, again by Helen Stewart. This is the second shawl in the Shawl Society 3, which is based on the book The Secret Garden. So I had started it last time I showed it to you, and I've had begun with this color, which is Black Cat custom sock, or custom yarn I should say, and the luxury sock. This colorway is Grapes of Wrath, and it's a one of a kind. So greens and purples, bit of yellow. And then I also bought this beautiful bright green in the Cthulhu colorway. I think that's how you say it. So that's my main color. So I think when I showed it to you last, I hadn't broken into this one yet. So this time I have. So I'm now 25% through the shawl, and I think it's knitting up rather nicely. I think it's a really pretty lace pattern that she's chosen for the main part of the shawl. What I like about it is, rather than having the lace run continuously, there's like a block of stockinette between each pattern repeat, and then they're offset. So it's not complete holy lace and overwhelming. I think this shows off the pattern really nicely. It almost looks like cables in a way, at least when it's not blocked. And I like the way those little motifs are offset as they run the length of the shawl. And then I obviously finished the bottom part. And again, I'm not sure how well that'll show up in this light, but quite pretty. I think they look quite nice together. It's a lot of knitting still to go. This third shawl comes out the beginning of August, and it's also a 3-color shawl. So I do not anticipate finishing this before the next shawl pattern comes out. That's a lot of knitting to do, and especially with the warm weather, you know, you have to be careful what you have on your lap. When I've been working on my sweaters, I can put the bulk of the sweater beside me and just have the shawl kind of over my lap, so I'm not sitting with the entire warmth of the sweater on me. But when you get to a shawl, at some point it does get to a point where that's all sitting on top of your lap while you're working on it. So I'll just plug away, and it'll get done when it gets done. Who knows, when I see the third shawl, I might totally lose interest in this one, depending on what it looks like. We did get a hint of a glimpse of what yarn that Helen had used for hers. I haven't even begun to think about yarn combinations yet. I think I'm just going to wait to see when the pattern is released and go from there. At that time, I will actually be away on holidays, and so who knows, maybe I will buy my have my souvenir yarn from my trip. We are planning to go to at Stephen, I think it's Stephen B's in Minneapolis. And I know they carry lots of hedgehogs. So maybe what I'll do is have buy souvenir yarn there for that shawl. We'll see. I may have the perfect thing in my stash. I just feel a little guava lipstick or something there. So, let's see. That's it for projects. I haven't been sewing at all. Well, that's not entirely true. I fixed my granddaughter's loop on her sundress the other day, and she was delighted and said, "Thank you, Grandma," about 4 times. But other than that, I haven't really been sewing. Been reading somewhat. I've been to Heaven to Betsy. I showed this book to you last week, but I hadn't, or last recording, I hadn't yet begun reading it. So I guess I'm a little more than halfway. This is one of my favorite from the series. Betsy and Tacy jump from being about, I think, 12 years old in the last book. And then this one, they're freshmen in high school. So that's what, grade 9, probably about 15, 14, 15, 16, 17, yeah, I guess around 15 years old. And Betsy's discovered boys and some new friends when she went to high school. And they also, in this book, she moves to a new house. And so she has, it's sort of the beginning of a new stage of her life. So she's in a new house, meeting new friends, but Tacy, her best friend, remains, a big part of her life. Their friend Tib has moved back to Milwaukee, although, spoiler alert, she does make an appearance later in the series once again. So yeah, this is all about her first year in high school, and it's just really a fun book. Like I say, it's one of my favorites. And in the very beginning of the book, she meets this boy named Joe Willard, who continues to play a role in her life throughout the rest of the series too. So yeah, just enjoying that. We leave in 2 weeks, not even 2 weeks, for our trip to the Betsy Tacy convention. There is no way I'm going to work my way through the rest of the series by then, but I will continue to read them regardless, and I'll definitely take 1 or 2 with me to read when I get a chance. So I guess that brings me to what's been going on in my life this past week and a half. The last time we spoke, I told you that my husband was being reviewed for employment expenses for 3 years by the CRA, the Canada Revenue Agency. So we've never had any sort of income tax review before. It appears it's just a random don't have any particular reason to be concerned, but it was a bit intimidating. Won't deny that, and went through all our receipts and stuff really carefully and forms, and found a few errors, corrected them on the forms. It all got sent away Saturday, and so hopefully everything is found to be okay. And I know just from some errors that were made, there will most likely be a small adjustment in tax owed, but nothing laborious, or is that the right word? Nothing onerous. Don't even know if that's the right word. Anyway, shouldn't be a lot. So we'll see. Now it's just a waiting game, see when they get to it, see what they send back. So trying to put it out of my mind. Not 100% able to do that, but I'm trying. Our deck is kind of on hold for now. The friend who's building it is away on holidays, and on top of that, we're waiting for some supplies for the ceiling, and got an update on that order this morning. Part of it's supposed to be coming Friday and part of it Monday, so hopefully that's the case, because he's back next week, and then once that stuff's there, he can finish up his part, or most of it. We had the landscaper in last week. He was supposed to come Saturday and then canceled on us and came, I think it was Tuesday. So we did a walk around the yard, and we're able to get a sense of what we might do as far as where we put our shed, where we put garden beds, patio area with pavers, etc., etc. And he had kind of spray paint and spray painted things out on the lawn, which was incredibly helpful. I really need to see it. He said he wasn't a drawer, so he wasn't going to be drawing it out on a piece of paper, but drawing it out on the lawn, and me being able to transfer it to kind of a big piece of graph paper for my own benefit was really helpful. So excited about that portion of this project, but that's not going to happen till the end of August, beginning of September, just because he's really busy. So it's kind of disappointing. I was hoping it would be done before then, but we've been here in this house almost 29 years and never done it before. So a few more weeks is not going to kill us. And then definitely, both cost-wise and time-wise, some of the project is going to be put off until next year, because it's quite extensive work that we're having done. Let's see. What about fun stuff? We've had some fun stuff going on. Last weekend, we attended, my cousin and her husband both turned 60 this year. He already, my cousin's husband already has. My cousin turned 60 in the fall, but because their birthdays are in winter and fall respectively, they decided to do something in the summer, kind of combine the celebration and have a summer party. So they have a little lot close to a lake, and so they invited family and friends to come celebrate with them. So it was a nice afternoon, evening by the lake. Barbecue, hamburgers, hot dogs, salads, etc. Got to see some relatives and a couple of people I knew from high school who are kind of connected to their family. And so, and my one cousin, my cousin's daughters just had a baby about 3 months ago, so got to see a new baby. That's always fun. So yeah, we just had a really nice family time. And then the following weekend, I saw some of them again, because it was, I went to a high school reunion, and it was not just the year I graduated, but they did a celebration of spanning 50 years. So they had from 1952 to 2002. I'm not sure why they chose that particular time period, and I think, no, I guess my no, sorry, I was going to say my aunt had graduated before that, but that's not true. She fell into that time period. So actually, my mom comes from a big family, and she did not attend. She chose not to come down and attend, but 5 of her sisters did. So it's kind of cool in a way to be overlapping with them. My youngest aunt's only 10 years older than I am. And so yeah, it was kind of cool because my 3 sisters that live here in town, the 4 of us went in together and stayed overnight. I grew up in Port Moody, which is closer to Vancouver, about an hour's drive from here. And so I was kind of, I don't know, nervous isn't the right word. I didn't know what to expect. I've really only, other than my relatives and other than my relatives. I was going to say other than my relatives and my sisters, but my sisters are my relatives. Other than my sisters, other than my relatives, I really haven't kept in touch with anyone from school except for my best friend who I met in grade 2. And she was maid of honor at my wedding, and we continue to keep in touch. But other than that, I really didn't know who might recognize me or remember me or the other way around. But as soon as we got there, one of the first people we saw was one of our old neighbors who was my younger sister's age, and she'd gone all through school with him. Then it turned out one of his brothers was also there. He was a bit older than I was. They looked just the same. Actually, both of them looked very much, definitely knew who they were. The older brother had spotted me and maybe just my name tag, I don't know. We all had, our names with the year we graduated. And so you kind of went around looking to see who you could spot. What I think would have been what I kind of expected to happen, and what I think would have been a good idea is to have meeting places for different years, even as my sister suggested, a span of years, like maybe I graduated in 1981, so maybe even 1980 to 85, and then it narrowed down the people you'd be searching for, because my understanding there was 1,100 people there. It was held in the ice arena where I learned how to ice skate with my best friend. She taught me. We used to go almost every Sunday during the winter after church. So it was kind of neat to have in there, but it was not very cool this time of year. In fact, it was very warm. A lot of us spent a good portion of the evening outside. It was a little bit cooler there. So yeah, it was neat. Sort of alternated between walking around with various sisters and then finding friends from school and spending time with them, and then we'd kind of hook up again together. So it was very enjoyable. I hadn't joined the Facebook group, but I had looked at the Facebook group I think the day before and scrolled through the members and saw some people I might potentially see, and some indeed I did see. Others I don't think were there, and if they were, I missed them, unfortunately. But yeah, it was really cool just to meet up with people I hadn't seen I think in most cases, maybe since our 10th reunion. There was a 15th reunion that I did not go to, and then apparently there was a 20th, which I actually didn't even know about. So some people had seen each other then. This would have been my 37th this year. So anyway, yeah, in some cases, hadn't seen some people in quite some time. It was neat. It's amazing. Well, some people have changed quite a bit, and some people really haven't very much at all. I mean, obviously we're all older, but I'm really glad I went. It was a great experience. My sisters and I just enjoyed our time together too. I grew up in a big family, and I grew up in a neighborhood where we had other big families. Well, actually, I grew up in 2 different neighborhoods over the course of my childhood. So it was quite cool. Someone would see the name on my name tag and recognize the family name, and vice versa. So it was kind of neat to run into some siblings from the same families throughout the course of the evening and sort of catch up on what the missing members of the family were up to. And so all in all, yeah, it was a really, really good experience. I'm very glad that I went. Let's see now. Oh, this weekend coming up. Cam and I are heading over to Victoria on Vancouver Island to see his mom, and we'll stay a couple nights with his brother and our sister-in-law, and then on Sunday night we're going to head up to Nanaimo, which is about an hour or so drives north of Victoria, and stay at a hotel that we've stayed at a few times before. It overlooks the harbor, and just have a little bit of a getaway to celebrate our anniversary. Our anniversary is actually at the end of the month, but that's the day that I leave on my road trip with my sister Janine. So this will give us a chance to mark it. It'll be 34 years this year. So that should be fun. Let me see what else. Yeah, so I guess I do, as I say, leave at the end of the month for my trip to Minneapolis with Janine. So I'm hoping to record one more time before I leave. I will do my best to do so. And then there's going to be probably a fair bit of a gap between when I leave and when I get home and I'm able to record again. But I should have plenty to talk about. And all that time in the car, I should have some car knitting done anyway. Janine and I will share the driving, so it won't be driving the whole way, but it's a long ways to go. So at the very least, I should have a pair of socks to share. The weather, as I said, has been very hot. It's supposed to start cooling down tomorrow and be a more bearable low to mid 20s. So looking forward to that. I do not enjoy the hot weather, and especially with humidity. So yeah, wherever you are, I hope you're comfortable. I know it's been quite hot back east too. And I imagine if you're in the southern hemisphere, of course you're experiencing winter. So hopefully weather's not too bad. And just before I leave, just to comment on what a amazing and heartwarming story with those young soccer players and their coach in the cave in Thailand. How amazing that they were all rescued. I was just so delighted to learn that. Can you imagine being one of those parents, just not knowing what's going to happen? Or, not even related, and waiting with bated breath. So very, very excited to see that happen. As for the rest of the news, it's been a little crazy, but we won't go there. So yeah, I just wish you all a wonderful week, and happy knitting. Thanks always for getting in touch. I always enjoy hearing from you, so thank you for watching, and thanks for reaching out. Take care, everyone. See you soon.